What might be your opinion or explanation on how these school shootings may be connected, and how are the shooters prompted to carry out these darn shootings and then kill themselves forevermore?
They're programmed to do it.
You may want to kind of expand on that a little bit.
Well, I've done that on many broadcasts. We've had many broadcasts. We've had the Mind Control series. We had a series on Dr. Lewis Jogging West and the Newer Psychiatric Institute of UCLA. We had a series done by the, oh my goodness, now I can't remember the name of the paper, but it's a newspaper in California that did a series on the mind control programs that were being conducted in the California state prison system on prisoners. Charles Manson was in that program. One of the supervisors of one of those programs got programmed himself and later became Sink in the Symbionese Liberation Army. He was the head of that little group that kidnapped Patty Hearst. And I could go on and on and on and on. Yeah, they're programmed. And you'll find that every one of them are either ex-mental patients on some kind of prescription psychiatric drug, such as Ritalin or Prozac, or the one that this Harris boy has been revealed to have been taking, and either used to be or still are under the care of a mental health care professional. They're programmed, and they're programmed to go off and do these things when they receive some kind of an audio-visual stimulus. Now, if you want to see how that works, go watch the movie The Manchurian Candidate and understand that that movie is based upon actual, real brainwashing and mind control experiments that were conducted by not only the United States, but the Soviet Union, the North Koreans, and many other governments of the world. I don't know if they choose specific children because of some personality profile that they exhibit, or if these are victims of opportunity. But they are victims. They're just as much victims as the people that they shoot. It's all there, and it's all in the public domain, and we've researched it and revealed it and documented it and sourced it for anybody that wants to look. It's all there. And I just shudder to think what they're able to do that's so top secret that we don't even know about.
If you thought his behavior inside that courtroom was bizarre, ABC News is learning new information this morning about his demeanor ever since he was arrested that paints a picture that is even more strange.
I'm going to tell you now that the only obstacle to the New World Order coming together at this moment is the right of the American people to keep and bear arms. That is why there is such an effort to take your guns away from you. You see, the intent of the Second Amendment, the second article and amendment to the Constitution, was not so that we could go hunting. It was not to protect the possessions in your home or to protect you from burglars. The intent of our forefathers in establishing the second article and amendment to the Constitution was that as long as every American owned a weapon, whether they ever fired it or not, our government could never oppress us just with the knowledge that we all had that weapon in our closet. That's the reason. That's why every time you see a bill to take weapons away from the American people defeated in Congress, 4 more are introduced immediately. It's a never-ending battle. That's why they lie about the statistics. The truth is, in a town where everybody owns a weapon and everybody knows it, there is almost no crime.
You all heard what happened this morning at 8:03 a.m. in Conyers, Georgia. I hate to say this yet once again, but I warned you. I told you it wasn't over. I told you it would happen again, and I told you it would probably happen again in another school very soon. And it did. And it's still not over. It's going to continue to happen until they have every gun in this country. Every gun. You watch the United States Senate wimp and roll over the entire Republican contingent, literally, voted down gun registration for pawn shops and gun shows, and then the very next day came crawling in with their tails between their legs and flopped over, bellies in the air. Bellies in the air. Well, the socialists thought they had it won, ladies and gentlemen, and then all of a sudden, they started backpedaling again. What in the world is going on? And when their anti-gun legislation was in danger of not being passed, guess what? Exactly 30 days after the shootings in Littleton, Colorado, a 15-year-old boy walks into a local high school in Conyers, Georgia, and opened fire with a pistol and a shotgun. He was apprehended within 10 minutes. And as they were trying to apprehend him, he stuck the pistol in his mouth to commit suicide with the classic profile. The classic profile, he stuck the pistol in his mouth to commit suicide, and they overcame him and stopped him from doing it. Held him until sheriff's deputies arrived, at which time he was placed under arrest. Wow. And remember, I predicted all of these things years ago, and I told you when Jonesboro happened last year that it was not over, it would happen again. It did at Columbine High School in Littleton, Colorado, and I told you then it would not be over yet. It would happen yet again and again and again. And after Columbine, I told you that the next incident would probably happen within a reasonably short period of time. They have to keep the momentum going. The agenda is gun control, to disarm all Americans. You watch this gun control issue pick up momentum like it's never had before in history. And it's all based upon a lie. And everybody knows that it just has not occurred to them yet. It's a lie. They say guns are more available to children than ever before in history, and it's a lie. When I was a boy, ladies and gentlemen, there was no gun control whatsoever. The first gun control ever passed in this country was in 1968. 1968. Since then, there have been literally thousands of gun control laws passed throughout all the different 50 states and the federal government. Now, I have to backtrack just a little bit because what I said isn't entirely true. Back in the 30s, a gun control law was passed. It restricted the sale of sawed-off shotguns, fully automatic machine guns, and silencers. That, if you'll remember, was the era of Al Capone and the St. Valentine's Day Massacre and all of those kinds of things. So that was really the first gun control passed in this country. It was the only gun control. And prior to that, you could walk into any store anywhere and buy a fully automatic machine gun of any kind. Sawed-off shotguns, silencers, whatever you wanted. But there was no gun control after that until 1968. And since 1968, there have been literally thousands of gun control laws passed across this country. Thousands, ladies and gentlemen. Literally thousands. So it's a lie. Guns are not more readily available to children today. They're just not. It's not true. They are lying to you, yet once again, on top of the mountains and mountains and mountains of lies that they have told us before. For the entire history of this country, up until recently, everybody owned guns and there were no restrictions. Anybody could walk into a gun shop up until the 1930s, or even a department store, or even a five and dime store, and buy a fully automatic machine gun. Even today, you can still buy a fully automatic machine gun if you pay the tax. When they went after David Koresh, demonizing him, telling you that he owned machine guns, they didn't tell you that all he had to do to make it 100% perfectly legal was pay a $200 tax, because that's all the tax was at that particular time, $200. And $200 isn't worth killing anybody for. It's not even worth the bullets that they took to shoot the dogs that belonged to the Branch Davidians. It certainly wasn't worth the payroll of all of the agents and the cattle cars and the cost of all the teenage ninja jackbooted thug turtle suits that they were wearing. It wasn't worth the lives of those agents or the lives of the Branch Davidians, but they did it for 200 stupid, silly, idiotic dollars! Don't you get it? And to top it all off, David Koresh never in his life owned a machine gun, and neither did any other person who was a member of the church Branch Davidian. But these people don't care about lies. They don't care about anything. They only care about their agenda. And their agenda is to enslave the population of the world in a totalitarian, socialist world government. That's what Kosovo is all about. I hope you're listening very carefully to me. Or will you be one of the stupid jerks who gets on board this wave of emotionalism and rides it all the way into the beach of enslavement, supporting the stripping away of the only protection against total tyranny and despotism that the American people have? The only reason that the Founding Fathers gave us the second article in amendment was to protect us from government, not to hunt. Not to target shoot. Not to be sportsmen. But to defend ourselves against the old despotism, the old tyranny from which they escaped in the old world. The tyranny of kings and monarchs and dictators and religions. That's right. And the craziest people you would never suspect to be supporting this stuff are supporting it. Are supporting it. Some minority religions who have been persecuted for their entire history are supporting it. Not understanding one of the major goals of the New World Order is to eliminate all existing religions. So why are these people on the bandwagon? You would think that the Jewish people would have learned their lesson from Hitler's shenanigans, but they haven't. You would think that the Mormons have learned their lessons, but they haven't. Despite their history of being persecuted, they are one of the greatest persecuting groups of people in this country. There's more lies floating around on this creek. This creek called America. You couldn't get your canoe in there to take a ride to the other side if you wanted to. Listen to this. Published by our friend Charlie Reese. Boy, Charlie Reese is at the top of my list, I got to tell you. This guy has got it pegged. Listen to this. Charlie Reese, published in the Orlando Sentinel, May 18th, 1999. Tragedy-fueled push for more gun control is based on a lie. Bravo, Charlie Reese. See, I've been saying this for years and years and years and years and years. I warned you about gun control before anybody else ever even thought about it. Except for Bernadette Smith. Or Bernadine Smith, I should say. She and I were the ones crying in the wilderness about gun control. We had it pegged when nobody else even dreamed such a thing was happening. Well, here's Charlie Reese now. He's caught up to us. Tragedy-fueled push for more gun control is based on a lie, published in the Orlando Sentinel, May 18, 1999. The current push for more federal gun control is fueled by the Littleton, Colorado tragedy and based on a lie which is repeated over and over, not only by gun control ideologues, but by talk show hosts and politicians. The big lie is that guns are more accessible today. This is factually false. It is demonstrably false. The truth is that, despite the Second Amendment, guns are less accessible today than at any time in American history. There are more than 20,000 gun control laws and regulations already on the books. Before 1968, there was no federal regulation at all of ordinary handguns and long guns. The only federal regulation was one passed in the 1930s that did not ban, but required a special license to purchase fully automatic weapons, sawed-off shotguns, and silencers. Before that legislation, anybody who wanted to could buy a submachine gun, fully automatic, at most any store, without filling out any paperwork at all. Guns are to America what the sword is to Japan. We would not exist as a country today without guns. For the majority of America's history, guns were as common in an American household as a broom or a cooking pot. Today, most states will not allow children to own a BB gun or to shoot one unless an adult is present. I received my Daisy BB gun at age 5, and I shot it unsupervised. I received a .22 caliber rifle for my 8th birthday, and I already possessed my own pistol, a .380 semi-automatic, which had been given to me by my brother-in-law who had fought in Normandy. It was among a duffel bag full of pistols he brought back from the war. American soldiers brought home all kinds of enemy weapons, pistols, rifles, true assault rifles, submachine guns. Today, even an admiral or a general is forbidden to bring back a rifle as a souvenir. There have been changes, and one change is that guns are less accessible than ever before. Another is that more and more Americans have been born and reared in big cities where they had no opportunity to use a gun recreationally or for personal security. Another is that, with the end of the draft back in the 1970s, fewer and fewer Americans have an opportunity to be trained in weapons use in the military. Another change, probably related to the others, is that more journalists and politicians are simply ignorant of firearms, though that never stops those people from talking about and wanting to regulate firearms ownership and use. What happened in Littleton had nothing to do with firearms. Every other kid at that high school had the same access to firearms as the two shooters, and that's true in all the other school shootings. If you're going to argue that all the other kids had the same access to culture and they didn't go berserk, therefore you can't blame culture, then you must acknowledge that the same argument applies to firearms. What you are seeing all around you is the old Hegelian principle at work. Thesis, antithesis, synthesis. First, you create or call attention to a problem. Then you generate hysteria about it, and then, voila, you offer a solution. In this case, you have two kids go berserk. You fan hysteria and then propose as a solution restrictions on the right of all Americans to acquire and own firearms. The land of the free is gradually becoming the land of the unfree. There are Americans, you know, who don't believe in freedom, at least not for others. We should never forget that humans are humans regardless of their nationality. There are always some people who have a terrible lust to control the lives of other people. Better to be free in a society with risks than a safe slave in a dictatorship. Bravo, Charlie Reese. Bravo, Charlie Reese. Bravo, Charlie Reese, again and again and again and again. Bravo. Bravo, bravo. Oh my goodness. Isn't that something? Isn't that something, ladies and gentlemen? Why is it that nobody understands these things? I mean, it's very simple to think these things out. It's very simple. It's not hard for anybody to do, but hardly anybody does any thinking anymore. Why do you suppose that is? There's a war being waged against freedom all over the world, and especially against Americans, because we have the most freedom. We were, in fact, up until a few years ago, the only free people who have existed in the history of humanity on the face of this earth. And one of the reasons that we were free is because we have guns. And I'm telling you right now, you better not ever give up your guns for any reason whatsoever. For any reason whatsoever. If somebody comes to take your guns, give them your guns, bullets first. Bullets first. And don't let them have the actual rifle or pistol until you don't have any more bullets left. That's my message. That was the message of the Founding Fathers. That is our right under the second article in Amendment, which says, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. That is the active clause. That's the only clause that counts. The people in the law, in relation to the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, has always been interpreted by every court as every single person, every single human being in this country, bar none. Bar none.
Our forefathers gave us one tool that no people in the history of the world has ever had, and that is the second article and amendment to the Constitution. It has nothing to do with whether or not you have a right to go hunting. Has nothing to do with protecting your personal property against burglars who might enter your home. Has nothing to do with a woman protecting herself from being raped on a city street late at night. The second article and amendment to the Constitution has only one purpose. Is to protect us against our own government should it ever become oppressive and usurp the powers of the Constitution. That's its only purpose. Those of you who are for gun control will take away the only real weapon that we have that can truly ensure that they can never oppress us. You see, because we never have to exercise that right. If everybody in this country, and I was taught when I was a child that it was a duty for every man to own a weapon and 100 rounds of ammunition, should he ever be called to protect his community from an oppressive government. My father taught me that. It's not being taught anymore. I will teach my daughter that. And I will teach her how to use weapons and how to clean them and how to store them safely so that nobody can get hurt. And I will teach her that as long as you have it, make sure that everybody knows that you have it, because that's the surety bond that no one will ever attempt to hurt us or take anything away from us just because they have the knowledge that each of us has a weapon and is willing to use it if we have to. They will never try. No one could successfully march against 260 million armed citizens. It's impossible. can't be done by the largest army on the face of this earth. And by the way, that's the Communist Chinese army, and they don't have any way to get here. There's no bridge. They don't have a navy big enough to carry an army that could fight us. But if you ever allow the Second Article Amendment to be usurped, to be taken away, to give up your guns, that is the day that you will cease to be a free people. And for those of you who think I'm heartless and cruel because of that, because little Johnny shot his little sister because she found the gun in Daddy's bureau drawer, I'm not heartless and cruel. My heart bleeds for that family and for that child, and for the child that shot that child, and for the father that was so careless and stupid that he left the weapon where a little child could get it. But I'm not going to give up the freedom of a whole nation of people because little Johnny shot little Susie. That's not right. Every right bears with it a responsibility. Just like the freedom of speech. You're responsible not to slander your neighbor. It doesn't give you the right to slander someone or tell a lie about someone or hurt someone. And the responsibility of the Second Article Amendment does not give you the right to leave a loaded weapon where a little child can get it. You see? I hope everybody understands what I'm talking about. That's right. You take away the swimming pool. The child drowns, and that's a good point. You know, how many children have drowned in Phoenix? More children drown in Arizona than any other state in the Union. Less children are shot, but they still want to take the guns away. But nobody's trying to take the swimming pools away. Why? Because you're being brainwashed that it's the gun that does it. And nobody's brainwashing you, telling you that it's the pool that does it. I hope you understand that. You can take away all my guns. If I want to kill you, believe me, I'll do it. And I won't need a gun. Guarantee you, I'll do it. And I might do it with a swimming pool.
We begin, though, with the string of gun violence across the country this weekend. Between Friday and Sunday, at least 10 cities reported mass shootings. Those are shootings with 4 or more victims. Several of those cities saw gunfire more than once.
NBC News correspondent Kathy Park joins us now. And Kathy, I want to start by asking you about 2 of the shootings that really made a lot of headlines over the weekend. The first in Austin on Saturday turned fatal. What more can you tell us about that one?
Hey, Joe, good morning to you. Yeah, it certainly was a violent weekend in Austin. In total, 14 people were shot. And we just learned over the weekend that a 25-year-old died from his injuries. And according to police in Austin, the shooting happened early Saturday morning in a very busy entertainment district in downtown Austin. Lots of bars and restaurants. In fact, since things are back open, they were seeing pre-pandemic crowds. So lots of people were in the area at the time when shots rang out. And but fortunately, officers were already in the area, so they were able to react quickly and help the wounded. In fact, some of them were actually able to pull some of the victims into their own police cars and then transport them to the hospital. Right now, we know that one suspect is in custody, a juvenile. Meanwhile, another suspect is at large. And as far as what may have sparked this violence, officials are saying that this was a dispute between 2 parties. Joe?
And Kathy, right before the Austin shooting, there was one in Savannah, Georgia, Friday night. Some of the victims were children. What are we learning about that incident?
Yeah, another very sad and tragic event in Savannah, Georgia. This one happened on Friday night, and those victims range in age from 13 months to 33 years old. And this situation was a little bit different because it happened in a residential area. And we were told from law enforcement there that there was a car that drove by some of these apartment complexes. And there were several people outside of one of the homes. And then someone in that vehicle began firing at this crowd, and they uncovered 60 shell casings, just to show you how many shots rang out into the crowd. And we know that 7 people were shot, 1 person was killed, and the police chief said that they are investigating this incident, possibly seeing any sort of connection with another shooting that happened just a couple days prior. Take a listen.
We were out there on Tuesday night. No one would talk to us. We went back out on Wednesday, sent detectives out in plain clothes. Still, nobody would provide any information to us. 2 days later, we end up with a mass shooting at the same location.
And the chief noted that this was no coincidence, and he's asking witnesses to step forward with any sort of information. And right now, they still don't have any suspects.
Kathy, nationwide, when it comes to gun violence, 2021 is off to a horrible start in the first half of the year. Can you put it all into context for us?
Yeah, Joe, I mean, gun violence has been creeping up pretty much all across the country, and we've been taking a closer look at numbers provided by the Gun Violence Archive, and approximately 270 mass shootings. That's how much they have recorded so far this year. And when you compare stats from this time last year to now, mass shootings are up 40% and then 65% higher than 2019. And also worth noting, so far this year, 8,700 people have died due to gun violence.
So Kathy, what are we seeing law enforcement do to try and curb the violence?
It really depends on the community and who you ask. For example, in Austin, Texas, obviously this latest shooting, this mass shooting, prompted the conversation once again about what to do next. In fact, gun violence has gone up over the past several years. So a violence prevention office has been created as of last summer. So they plan on beefing up support there. And then in Savannah, Georgia, they plan on taking more of a community-based support, and they plan on having a community forum to discuss what happened over the weekend, Joe.
All right, Kathy Park. Thank you so much, Kathy.
Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.
Walking through Babylon. Walking through Babylon.
You have a problem? We have an answer. Oh, a building blew up in Oklahoma City? My goodness, let us protect you, for this could happen to any building. Let us take away your arms and ammunition so that you cannot protect yourself. Let us furnish your security. Trust us. We will be good to you. We will never become despotic or tyrannical. We will protect you. Give us your guns. Give us your arms. Let us take care of you. We will save you from yourselves. Isn't that what we hear? The double mind breach. And this function easily, ladies and gentlemen, assume in the minds of the subject, patients, the people, a godlike status. I submit this status is characterized by the use of the term they in our society, as in, why don't they come up with a tire that will never wear out or a cure for cancer? As in, they have a cure for cancer, but the doctors would lose too much money, so they have suppressed it. Or, they say the CIA killed Kennedy and he was fornicating with Marilyn throughout his presidency. They write the movie scripts and the billboard slogans. They have the money and the power and control of the illusion machine. They can cure cancer or withhold the cure. They reveal the secrets behind assassinations and scandals. What will they do next? How will they program the show today? Let's sit back, watch, and find out. Since we choose to refuse to genuinely heal the rift between the two sides of our mentality by the tough means of repudiating our lying public persona and taking action on the understanding of our true self, we relinquish autonomy to those who make it appear that they can heal us at no great cost or trouble on our part. You don't have to be responsible. You don't have to take any risk. You don't even have to get up off your couch. We will heal you. We will provide you security. We will take care of you. But never mind that they are also the ones who implanted the rift in the first place, a la Hegel, and the dialectic is working upon us all the time. The point is, ladies and gentlemen, we have little or no power. We cannot act. We cannot invent. We cannot cure. We must wait and see what happens. We must see what they make happen. And if you believe that, you're already dead and buried.
Now, I challenge you, ladies and gentlemen, I challenge you, explain this to me. Every time there was a major piece of gun legislation, or I should say anti-gun legislation, anti-Second Amendment legislation, anti-Bill of Rights legislation, introduced in Congress, either in the Senate or in the House, some nut walked into McDonald's or onto a schoolyard or into a shopping center and killed a whole bunch of people. Explain that to me. Explain that timing to me. Can you? Now, what do you think the odds are that just as the Omnibus Counterterrorism Bill was introduced in Congress and didn't have any support, somebody would blow up a federal building in Oklahoma City? Explain that to me, if you can. You see, it's beyond absurd anymore. They pull these little tricks just one too many for anybody to be believing it anymore. Yes, we need to be asking an awful lot of questions.